I'd like to introduce you to our keynote speaker, which is our very own Anthony Harbinson, who's Director of Community Safety at the Department of Justice for Northern Ireland, Chair of the CCAB, Vice Chair of ACCA's Public Sector Global Forum, and Deputy President of ACCA. And I believe he takes up his office as President of ACCA this year? Next July, I think. But Anthony has recently taken up his role as Director of Safer Communities for the Northern Ireland Department of Justice and has responsibility for resourcing, policy and the legislative framework for reducing offending, policing and community safety. Before taking up his current role, Anthony was Director of Justice Delivery for the Department of Justice. In that role, he had responsibility for the leadership and management of the Central Services function and oversight of the Forensic Service Agency, the State Pathology Department, Legal Aid, and the Northern Ireland and oversight and direction of the Compensation Agency. His full biography is here, and I won't go on to list his many other accolades, otherwise we'll be here till lunchtime. And I'm not quite sure how Anthony fits in all of his work with ACCA, but it is indeed a pleasure to invite Anthony to the podium to get this conference started. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gillian. You'll be glad to know that the speech is shorter than the introduction. We've got the biggest storm that hit Britain for 60 years. We've got a collapse in the tube system. We have the buses and the taxis aren't running properly, so it must be the fault of the public sector. Because that's the thing you find in the public sector. No matter what happens, no matter where it happens, somehow it's our fault. But I'm delighted to be here and to be given this opportunity to open the ACCA's 5th International Public Sector Conference on on financial reporting in an open world. I think this is the 3rd or 4th one I've done, and I'm really delighted to be here. The harmonisation of global accounting standards for the sector and the transparency of financial reporting continues to be a topical theme, and rightly so. It's very important. I'm also pleased to see such a diverse audience, and I know that Gillian said that we maybe get 120, 130, and last year we had 500 people pick up on the TV feeds. I'm going, when I finish, to fall off the stage and roll around on the floor, because that'll guarantee it'll be on YouTube and there'll be about 5 million people who will watch it. That's what I do for the public sector. That's how I think we should put ourselves out there. But on a serious note, I mean, we're here to discuss financial and non-financial reporting and have a look at developments for plans such as the implementation of European public sector accounting standards and outline the plans for integrated reporting by the sector. And I do think integrated reporting is the new big thing, and it's not just in the public sector, it's going to be right across all industries and all sectors. Financial reporting, together with a host of public financial management issues, impact on the public sector. It's an area which I've spent my entire working life. I've spent almost 30 years, and yet I've managed to work in a nationalised industry. When I started off my career, it was with the Northern Ireland Electricity Service, and then they privatised it. I then moved into the health service, and as soon as I got there, they created trusts and started the system of privatisation that's going on in that direction. I now work in policing and justice, and there's areas of that which we're privatising as well. So in many ways, the public sector is shrinking in a lot of areas where we bring in increased competition. But it's got to be an area that is the most overly watched, overly scrutinised area. I managed to speak at a conference of international accountants last week, and it was a diverse group from quite a range of backgrounds. And I asked them how many people thought a job in the public sector was easier than a job in the private sector. And I'm still amazed how many people put their hands up, because there's still this perception that the public sector is less scrutinised, less pressured and less hard-working than the private sector. And that's a nonsense. If anything, I think the people in this room, we're actually probably the most overseen, overwatched. Most of the private sector don't have to face having their salaries printed in a local newspaper and in an annual report. They don't have to go before public accounts committees and get grilled to the same level. Although I have to say that Margaret Hodge is certainly making a very strong move to get the private sector grilled just as much as we are. So we work in a very, very important area. Policy developments, though, such as financial reporting, are very important to the ACCA because we have many members working in that sector, and we take our public interest responsibilities in this sector very, very seriously. We have 15,000 members working within the public sector. That is 10% of the ACCA membership, and we have 49,000 students working or preparing to work in that sector, and again that makes up about 12% of our student membership. So actually the proportion of people within the ACCA connected to the public sector is growing. ACCA members work in the public sector in 135 countries. We have members working in organisations such as the United Nations, the European Court of Auditors, the European Commission, the World Bank, Ministries of Finance and Supreme Audit institutions, to name but a few of the places where we have members. A few of our members are also politicians, God love them. And as a public sector person and as a civil servant, I honour the masters that I work for, but I sure as hell wouldn't want to be one. It is a very hard job, and it's a job that takes a lot of criticism. So imagine being a politician and an accountant. As I say, we have members who hold eminent positions such as Ministers of Finance, chairs of parliamentary public accounts committees. Government spending on public services accounts for more than 1/3 of GDP in most countries around the world. And if big business have to produce annual accounts and balance sheets, and governments are telling them they have to do that, do you not think it's necessary for those governments to produce their own balance sheets and produce their own accounts? Most people do these days. Because the public sector is so large and influential in so many countries, the sector is an important role for ACCA to support and to influence. We are aware that there is a shortage of finance professionals working both within government and in the audit spheres, and there is a critical need to build financial capability within the sector and to develop our expertise. We know the few developing countries and emerging markets have calculated the resources they will need to take forward effective